The lake was always an eerie place. It was surrounded by dense forests and tall, dark cliffs that seemed to loom over it, casting long shadows on the water below. There was a feeling of foreboding that hung over the lake, a sense that something was not quite right. But the locals had grown used to it, and they would often spend their days fishing or boating on the lake, never suspecting that something was lurking beneath its surface. One summer, a family moved into a small cabin near the lake. They were looking for a peaceful getaway from the city, and the lake seemed like the perfect place to spend their vacation. The father, Tom, was a writer, and he saw the lake as a source of inspiration for his work. The mother, Sarah, was a teacher, and she wanted to spend time with their two children, Jake and Emily. The family settled into their cabin and spent their days exploring the lake and the surrounding woods. They were having a wonderful time, but they soon began to notice that there was something strange about the lake. At night, they would hear strange noises coming from the water, as if something was swimming just beneath the surface. And sometimes, they would see ripples on the water, even when there was no wind. Tom dismissed these occurrences as the imagination of an overactive mind. But Sarah was more concerned. She had a feeling that something was not right, and she didn't want to put her family in danger. She urged Tom to leave, but he refused, insisting that there was nothing to be afraid of. One evening, after dinner, the family went down to the lake to watch the sunset. The sky was a deep shade of orange, and the water shimmered in a fading light. As they stood there, they heard a strange, mournful cry. It was a sound unlike anything they had ever heard before, a wailing that seemed to come from the depths of the lake. The family was frightened, and they quickly made their way back to the cabin. But that night, as they lay in their beds, they heard the cry again, louder this time. And then they heard something else, a scratching at the door. Tom got up to investigate, but he found nothing. He dismissed it as an animal, but Sarah knew that it was something more. The next day, the family decided to go out on the lake in their boat. They were hoping to take their minds off the strange occurrences of the night before. But as they were boating, they saw something that made their blood run cold. Just beneath the surface of the water, they saw a pale, ghostly figure. It was a woman, dressed in a long, flowing dress, with long, dark hair that trailed behind her. She was swimming towards them, her eyes fixed on the boat. The family was terrified, and they quickly turned the boat around, hoping to get away from the ghostly figure. But the woman was relentless. She followed them, swimming faster and faster, until she was almost upon them. And then she vanished, disappearing beneath the water. The family returned to their cabin, shaken by what they had seen. They knew now that there was something truly frightening about the lake, something that they couldn't ignore. That night, as they sat by the fire, they heard the cry again. And then they heard something else, a tapping at the window. They looked outside, but they saw nothing. Over the next few days, the family tried to find out more about the ghostly figure they had seen. They talked to the locals, and they discovered that there was a legend about the lake. It was said that a woman had drowned in the lake many years ago, and her ghost still haunted its waters. The family was disturbed by this revelation. They had always felt that there was something unsettling about the lake, but now they knew that their fears were not unfounded. They decided to investigate the legend further, hoping to find a way to lay the woman's spirit to rest. They learned that the woman's name was Alice, and that she had drowned in the lake over a century ago. She had been engaged to a wealthy businessman, but her family had disapproved of the match. They had arranged for her to marry someone else, and Alice had been heartbroken. On the day of her wedding, she had gone for a swim in the lake, and she had never returned. Her body was never found, but her ghost had been seen on the lake ever since. The family was determined to put an end to Alice's torment. They consulted with a local medium, who told them that the only way to lay Alice's spirit to rest was to find her body and give her a proper burial. The family decided to search the lake, hoping to find some clue as to where Alice's body might be. They spent days diving in the lake, searching for any sign of Alice. They found old pieces of clothing, scraps of jewelry, and even a few bones, but they could not find Alice's body. They were about to give up hope when they noticed something unusual on the lake bed. It was a small, dark shape, almost hidden by the mud and silt. They swam down to investigate, and they realized that it was a small, metal box. They brought the box to the surface, and they opened it. Inside, they found a letter, written in Alice's hand. It was a desperate plea for help, a cry for someone to rescue her from her unhappy life. The family realized that Alice had not drowned by accident. She had taken her own life, unable to bear the pain of her broken heart. The family was devastated by the revelation, but they knew that they had to do what they could to help Alice. They contacted the local authorities, and they were able to arrange for a proper burial for Alice. They had her remains interred in the local cemetery, and they held a small, private ceremony to honor her memory. After that day, the family never heard the cry again. They never saw Alice's ghost on the lake, and they never heard the tapping at the window. It was as if Alice's spirit had finally found peace, able to rest after so many years of torment. The family left the lake soon after, but they never forgot their experiences there. They knew that they had witnessed something truly terrifying, something that they could never explain. But they also knew that they had helped to put an end to the suffering of a tormented soul, and that gave them a sense of peace.